couldn't believe the extent that how extreme this whole thing was going to be.
First time I saw the masks would have been at a Melbourne show, and I was just sort of intrigued more than anything. I was just like, what's this band doing? This is kind of crazy, you know.
I saw playing in the masks as the ultimate challenge. It was something that would need practice and lots of it, especially when playing at these breakneck speeds.
When Luke first showed me the masks, sort of, an example of, what the live show was going to consist of, I was, well, I'm glad I'm not playing in that.
And I was just looking and thinking, how in fuck am I going to, do vocals in it?
The masks restrict your breathing quite a lot.
It looked very hot and it looked very sort of enclosed.
The idea of the masks, in the live situation was to enhance, the visual aspect, but actually performing those things was insanely uncomfortable. It was just disgusting.
It was really hot, really sticky.
The mask creates your own little environment. Nothing ever sounded or looked the same through a mask.
Playing in the masks was a bit full on. For me, it was kind of cool. Like, my one's actually skin tight, and I've got perfect eye holes. The only thing that's a problem with it is I haven't got a mouth hole, so breathing can become a bit of an issue.
It's fine to do 1 or 2 shows, but once you start doing, 4 or 5 months in a row, those things stink. All the latex starts to rot, and it's just awful.
I looked at him and I just thought, how are we going to make this happen? Kind of the same thing I thought with most of the stuff that we brought to the table. The first gig that we didn't rehearse with them on as much as we really should have. Mine was way too loose, and I remember the first song I headbanged a little, got halfway through the song, and where the eye sockets were, they were down around near where my mouth was. So I couldn't see the guitar, I couldn't see the microphone, I couldn't see anything really, and I was doing my vocals out of my eyes.
I mean, it's quite interesting. During sound check, we don't wear the masks and the long clothes, all that kind of thing, and you realise that it's so much easier to perform the music without the stage persona.
You need to be at the top of your field as a musician. You need to be able to play at speeds faster than no other musician.
You've got to be a reliable, just down-to-earth normal person that does what they need to do in a band situation.
You need to be on time. On time to rehearsals.
Be dedicated and motivated.
On time to recording your parts for the album. On time for gigs.
He's got to play really fast guitar.
There's a million better musicians than me in the world, and the reason I ended up doing it and not them is because I actually turned up and kept on turning up to do Berzerker stuff, and that's it.
Put everything into that band because it deserves it and it demands it.
Then the Berzerker, harder or more extreme? No.
Yeah, if you recorded 50 jackhammers.
I think music can get harder and more extreme, but probably not much.
But that is the heaviest shit I've ever fucking heard.
We've always kept in mind, can this be done in a live show? And I believe that if you take out that emphasis on what you're able to do in the live show or not, then it's all systems go.
I tend to relate a lot of this kind of thing to the sporting arena, where people are always running fast, jumping further, that kind of thing. And I think as you get older, you do become better, you become stronger, and you have the knowledge to take yourself to a place where you haven't been before. And that is one of the main goals of the Berzerker.
I can't imagine how the music would get harder or more extreme, but I'm sure Luke will find a way. He's good at doing that.
Their theme, their package, they come as a complete package.
How different the mixture of sounds were.
Nothing's half-baked, everything's got to be done properly.
The drums are triggered, and the tuning is that low, and there's the dual vocal attack as well.
There's samples flying left, right and centre.
You're going to do something, you do it properly.
It was very busy sound, and it was all at once.
We're not competing with all these other people, we're just like competing against, I guess, basically ourselves.
It's a collection of people that really want to get shit done.
No one sort of fucked around. It was all pretty much down the line when it came to shows and turning up and just being professional in general.
Luke's got a hell of a lot of determination, which I think is good, and just a high standard.
It was very focused.
Ever since I've known Luke, like, he's just been flat out going hard on the Berzerker.
And it also helps that like Luke's pretty focused about all of it.
I don't know if I'm the best person to comment on that. I might be a bit biased, but I know what makes the Berzerker work, and that's the fact that I've been able to find people who don't get too offended or are willing to let me change their riffs, material, speed them up, and the fact that I can go ahead and write drum tracks, etc., and then just present them to our drummer, and he'll go ahead and learn them. So yeah, I don't know what makes it work well.
But somehow it worked, and it didn't lose its direction.
I started playing guitar when I was like 12 years old, and all I wanted to do was play fast, and I listened to a lot of, thrash bands and so on. I practiced a lot every day, and playing guitar was a fairly sort of integral part of my life. After I finished high school, I studied music for 3 years, and the one thing that sort of it made me think, alright, it's really time to get stuck into it, was when I saw all the jazz players there, because I was the only metal guy there, and all the jazz players, they could all play lead at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I was like, right, that's it. So I just practiced all the time. That's sort of how I guess I attained it. It's just a matter of practice and just pushing yourself every day to try and upping the metronome and trying to achieve a sort of higher standard every day.
You had to be like fit to do it, just because with the masks they didn't really circulate air at all. So you had the problem that most runners have, like you get out of breath, you just like get a build up of lactic acid, you're not getting rid of enough carbon dioxide, so it meant having to actually jog a fair bit, just like eat healthy. Any advantage whatsoever, you get near the end of the set, every night, you're just exhausted. Some nights like your knee collapse as well.
Basically I like to keep as many elements of the music moving as quickly as possible, so there's some incredibly fast vocal rhythms in there in songs like Massacre and Death Reveals, and I guess one of the most difficult parts about the songs is actually remembering the lyrics, because there's so many words. I did a lot of practice with Massacre in particular, breathing exercises as far as counting, like taking a single breath and counting to the highest number you can, and then repeating that and trying to beat your last score. And I guess that really took a couple of months to do. Then you add the masks, and basically you got to start practicing again. But it was just a lot of practice, and can't emphasize that enough. Just repetition and practice.
Work hard, practice your instrument, get good at it.
Just figure out what they want out of music and focus on it.
Surround yourself with people that are driven. Otherwise, you can really fall into a lot of the traps of the business.
Practice, practice, practice. As I said earlier, you're never good enough.
If you don't focus, if you don't give 100%, and it doesn't have to be too much. You've got to know what you want and actually try and achieve it.
If you've got your heart set on something, just stick with it. Have the determination to go through it. You don't need lots of money or fancy equipment. That's no excuse, really. You just stick with it and hang in there and give it everything you got.
Even if you can't believe that you can do it, push yourself to that limit, and then before you know it, you'll be looking back on what you've just done, and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
But you're never ever gonna be able to live off it.
Definitely adopt some of the methods that the Berzerker did, like for example, never give in, don't take second best, and just when you think it can't get more extreme, it can. So just do it,
and then you might have some chance.
It comes down to just being a person that achieves something. That's my interpretation of it anyway, and that's what it's all about.
I find great frustration in the majority of the world, and the Berzerker is, I guess, one of my outlets to express that, without resorting to violence or anything else.
The whole hating people thing, I used to be really into that, because I really did hate everyone, myself included. But you change a bit when you get older. You can't keep that up. If you do, you don't really hang around for too long. But the whole concept of it, yeah, I'm behind that. People suck ass.
Lyrics are very subjective. I think a lot of people get different meanings out of them, and that, I guess, is a positive thing.
I don't think that a concept and the lyrics of a band supposed to be agreed with or disagreed with. I think that a concept for a band should be either enjoyed or otherwise ignored.
All I really have to go on is my own experiences. I've done a lot of travelling, throughout the world, and I've found that people are generally very similar, and that is that most people are willing to accept average as good, and I'm not.
I think that the concept of the Berzerker works well for their band, their whole concept of look at us, look how terrible we are, look how disgusting humans are.
The strive for excellence and the strive to push yourself beyond what you currently think you can do and or know.
How well that message comes across through their lyrics is another thing. I understand the message and I understand completely, but I assume perhaps a lot of people may read their lyrics as just gore, simply gore, and that's not what it's about at all, and I like it.
One of the 2 London shows, the crowd just went berserk and it was great fun.
The first one in London for me, because the guy I went to school with who introduced me to heavy metal and also taught me how to play guitar, was at that gig, and we always used to listen to all the E-Rate bands and stuff together, and so that was really special. He managed to turn up 10 years after school and check it all out.
I think one of the best gigs we played was in Glasgow the first time we went through. It was a reasonably small venue, only about 200 or 300 people, but it was filled to capacity, and the energy in this place was just unbelievable. I don't know if it was because they didn't get too many shows through there, or the fact that you only had to be 14 to get in. So there was a lot of younger people there, but it just came across that everyone in the venue seemed to be totally in line with what we were doing and understood that, and it was just amazing. Brisbane, Australia was absolutely insane. The heat was indescribable. The humidity in Brisbane anyway is very high, but this was just this was insane.
Probably my worst gig might have been in Brisbane. The heat was just unbelievable. Then again, Leeds, it was also just too hot. I came off the stage and just felt awful.
Because we wear the mask, the long sleeves, and the rest of it, there is nowhere for the heat to escape to. So the heat just goes inward.
It was like a 40-degree night, and there was no air conditioning once again in the place, and it was on the 2nd floor of a building. And I think the way it was constructed, all the heat just fully rose up, and we were last band on, and by the time we got on there, it was just absolutely baking. So we roast. We roast bad.
Realistically, it was a bit frightening. I don't think I've ever been that hot in my life, and usually if you are, you kind of strip down somewhat to cool off, and in this instance we really didn't have that option. I came very, very close to collapsing, and it's not something that I want to make a habit of.
I would have been in Tilburg in Holland, and my in-ear monitors went and I just couldn't hear anything.
I think playing wise, one of the hardest shows was the New Jersey Metal Fest in 2001, and that was the fact that the fallback there was terrible. We didn't have a fallback engineer with us, and basically I couldn't hear the drum kit. Now, I've never been in a situation where I couldn't hear the drums, maybe the guitar or something else, but keeping in time became very difficult, and I guess that was one of the main reasons why I tried to adopt the in-ear monitors, so that we wouldn't have that problem in the future with subsequent tours. We have to be able to hear exactly what we're playing to be able to play to a high standard, and we can do that. But if you can't hear, it just makes it basically impossible.
Well, it wasn't the hardest gig we had to fucking play. One which stuck out as being really mentally hard for me to play was on the Nile tour, just first gig after Gary broke his foot. And there's all our favourite bands, Napalm Death, Nile, strapping young lads standing on the side of the stage. We're getting on stage with Luke, set to drummer for the first time, ever in front of the crowd. And we didn't know if we were going to completely eat shit in front of all these people watching, and all our favourite bands as well. And I was packing death. I was very, very, very nervous before that one.
I was a little reluctant in accepting the work for the second album cover, seeing there was a few troubles with the first one, having a full-time job and just a record label not being happy with certain things. But I thought, well, got a few new skills under my belt, and I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a go. At this stage, I was working for a games company, and I taught myself 3D, and I thought I'd give it a go. I wasn't actually promising anything at the time, but I just sort of said, well, leave it with me, and I went away for a couple of weeks and decided to build this dragon in Softimage, using Softimage, seeing at the time that's what I was using at work, and there was still a bit of a learning curve there, seeing I was actually just learning it at that stage. So everything seemed to be going quite well with what I knew in Softimage, and I called Luke around and got him to have a look at the dragon, and he was quite happy with it. I was also playing around with the procedural textures in Softimage, which were really good and simple, which meant that I didn't have to worry about mapping textures to what 600,000 polygons, which is what the dragon eventually turned out to be. Well, after getting a bit of feedback from Luke, I'd gone away again and gone a little overboard, I think, with the second stage of the 3D dragon. I just think I put too much into it, and just sort of I moved away from the initial feel of it, which had quite a heavy head to it and just a very sparse body. So after this, I took it back a few steps and started again, and was quite careful with the additions I made to this dragon. And with Luke's input, I'd finally moved into a direction where it was all looking quite nice. I applied like metal textures with the right amount of reflection, played around with a little bit of the lighting. The biggest problem with trying to build the dragon in 3D was that I didn't want to change it. I wanted to just elaborate on the initial design, but the problem was the amount of polys it was going to take to do that. And by this stage, I'm still using a Pentium 2 350, although I have upgraded to a GeForce 2 graphics card and a little bit more RAM, but nothing extravagant. I had to keep in mind that the dragon was actually going to be printed, so I did want to keep the poly count quite high, which by the end of the day was somewhere in the vicinity of 600,000 polygons, and which gave me a lot of grief. I could barely rotate the thing on screen at this stage, so it took quite some time at this point to make slight modifications on lighting and applying textures, and just rendering an image out. It would take, you know, a good 15 minutes just for one image, just to see if we got the angle right. So that was fairly painstaking. Throughout the process of building this dragon, Luke was particularly happy with one render, but the problem was I'd did 20 different versions by that stage and moved onward, and I hadn't actually saved those original changes, so it was a matter of basically just stripping that back again and trying to replicate that, which wasn't working too well, I must admit, but I think we finally got close and to a point where we were all happy with it. Well, once I'd finally built the dragon and everything was right, the angle, the lighting, still had the dilemma of the background, and by this stage I was actually quite busy with my full-time job, and I was just in this vicious cycle of just trying to quickly finish off a background so I could get into the inside of the booklet. And I don't know how many designs I did, I can't even remember, just trying to quickly finish it off and present Luke with something that looked okay but would still be acceptable, but I just wasn't meeting Luke's needs. I think he had a very clear vision again, and he wanted something very specific, and I just wasn't delivering at that time. So what I had to do was basically throw all that in the bin and start from scratch. Well, I thought I'd actually sit down and design a full 3D background to gel with the dragon a little bit better. So I'd basically devoted most of my lunch breaks for about a week in designing this room. It was just straight off the top of my head. I didn't actually sit down and do any sketches or anything. I just built a room, just threw in a few electrical conduits, just slapped the texture over the top of that, and threw a few lights in, and I was actually quite happy with the result. I think Luke was quite happy as well. and we just slapped the dragon over the top of that. There was nothing hard there. I initially rendered out a few different angles. We seemed to have a few problems with where we were going to put the text on this album cover, so I came up with a design where I really wanted to have the text separated from the image of the dragon and the background, and I came up with this idea where we could print the name of the album and the band name on like a transparent PVC plastic, where you could sort of only just vaguely see the dragon underneath it, but if you peeled that back you could then just get, you know, the dragon in all its glory without having text and everything else over the top of it, which sort of takes away from it, I think. There was a stage where I just came up with like about 10 different good mock-ups, basically trying to get a direction, just to get some feedback from Luke and just to see where he wanted this album cover to go. And I got the existing image and, you know, enlarged the head and had the text underneath that, and there was another golden one which I was reasonably happy with. Yeah, I think Luke really had his heart set on something that represented the music, which was just hard, just indescribable. Well, after rendering out background at right angle, I basically just slapped the dragon over the top and left the rest with Luke. Seeing I was working on Minority Report for GBA at the time at work, and I was just under massive time constraints, so I just didn't have the time or the energy to put any more work into it, so I just left the rest with Luke, and he just basically finished it off. Although I did have my heart set on the PVC design, which turned out to be cost prohibitive anyway, I still am very happy with the final result. Although I didn't have all that much to do with the art on the inside of the booklet, that's okay because Luke did a great job. As I said, he's got a really good design sense, so, you know, I'm happy to know that I can just, you know, leave him with whatever I've done and he won't deface it, which a lot of people seem to do, so yeah, it's good that way.
endless panorama of desolation and death.
Slow down and be careful. Whoa, look out for that family. Whoops, it's game over, Stu. Drink and drive and you'll be playing dead. Jailbird Joe and bereaved family sold separately.
Okay. Okay, here is the mask shop. Currently stands. I got no idea what to do with fucking half this shit. I gotta do some stuff with these bits and pieces. Yes, this art stuff's not overly my cup of tea. I don't know what the fuck to do with this bastard.
hatchet was used to split open their skulls and to hack the flesh from their bodies. Its blade was forged in blood. To inherit the hunting skills of the dead, their relatives must be. So widespread that the government this year was forced to increase the budget. Kano and Naru will be hanged. They will never understand why. All they obeyed the law of tradition. Unfortunately, they didn't know of the new law, which punishes those who obey the old law.
silicone mask coming to a theatre near you. Here's our mask cleaner at work. If you wouldn't mind, yeah, just make sure they're nice and clean because we've got a big show tomorrow. Can you give them a good squirt? Good cleaning? It's, we've got to travel with them and that's the stuff, yeah. Just make sure they're nice and clean right the way through.
We had 10 days in Tampa before we started our headlining European tour and had to find a drummer. So basically, our last show was in Florida, home of the originators of death metal in the States, I guess. And we kind of just started putting the word out that we were looking for a drummer to take across to Europe. And we had a bunch of different, guys come up and offer their services. Richard Christie was one, and Tony from Nile was interested, I think, but had to go and get to do the New Jersey Fest and some other things. And Richard had to go and do an album with Iced Earth. Anyway, like I said, we tried a bunch of people, and we ended up bumping into this guy Ryan. And it ended up, he came as a whole package. He gave us somewhere to stay. He spent a ridiculous amount of time learning the material. At this stage, I was completely worn out, ruined, just almost demoralised from having to play the drums for that week. And I had quite a hard time, basically sitting down and trying to go through the music with him. So that's where Sam and Matt really helped out. But no, look, Ryan was amazing. Our music is not easy, it's not slow, and his job was to learn, I think, 55 minutes of music in, by the time we got around to it, I think it was only about 6 days. And, look, it worked out great. He was a good guy, and, like I said, somewhere to stay, learned all the material, and, we all got along. So, the label bought him a flight, and he went across with us. And really did a fantastic job, seeing the short amount of time that he had, and he just basically played to charts or played off charts for the whole tour. If you sit down and say, right, a week from today, we need to find a member. You're in a foreign country, you need to find a member and learn an hour of material. Try and see if you can make it happen.
I'm getting no headshot.